I said a busy show because Linda Cohn is here. Well, she was here. So yesterday, kill the music. We'll kill the music. Yesterday, after we finished the show, or finished most of the show, I had a chance to have a lengthy one-on-one with Linda Cohn, the former ESPN SportsCenter anchor, an icon in women's sports broadcasting, somebody I have admired going back to the 90s and the mid-90s, early mid-90s, when I knew what I wanted to do for a living. That was be a broadcaster. And growing up in the shadow of ESPN in Connecticut and seeing everything that she's done and accomplished, retiring after 34 years recently over at ESPN, and now launching her own brand, The Linda Cohn Show, jumping into this brave new world that I jumped into a few years ago myself, where you break away from the constraints that often come with working for a brand like ESPN, which I worked for, NBC Sports, which I've worked for, SiriusXM, which I've worked for, these different corporate media groups, the iHearts, the Odysseys, the Cumuluses. I've worked for all of them. And there are certain constraints that come with that. There is a certain level of muzzling that often comes with that. And the freedom that you get when you decide to go off on your own is exhilarating. It can be frightening, exciting, all at the same time. And she's discovering that now, and she's making her voice heard on a lot of issues. So I want to talk to her about her final days at ESPN, her career there, also get into some of the big hot-button issues around the sports world that she is now opining on, and we will do that coming up during the course of this show. The Tony Romo controversy going on over at CBS Sports, the topic of trans women in sports, Aaron Rodgers, Pat McAfee, the state of women in broadcasting. We're going to get to all of it with her during the course of this show. And it's not even the full conversation because we talked for so long. We only have so much time in the course of this show. We will have the entire conversation, Linda Cohn in her own words, in its entirety. That will be next Friday on the show. So a week from Friday, August 14th, we will have that entire conversation on a special edition of SportsWrap. So that is coming up. You'll get a good chunk of that conversation in today's show. But we start things out as we always do, because we still have our staples. Still got odds and ends later in the show. And we still talk about the big stories of the day. What is on my mind? What is burning a hole in my brain? And we do that in the big story. And the big story is presented by the Daily Wrap. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to go and subscribe to the Daily Wrap. It's our Substack newsletter. We put it out Monday through Friday. We're covering the top stories in sports, what we're talking about on the show. It's all in the Daily Wrap. Subscribe. It's real easy. All you got to do, scan the QR code. It's right there. You got your phone in your hand anyway. Scan the QR code and get the Daily Wrap, our Substack newsletter, and it's free. Whereas so many people are charging for these things, we put it out there for free every day, for now anyway. So go and subscribe while it is free and go check that out. All right, the big story today. LIV Golf gets a lifeline. We don't know from who. And I think that's, the devil is in the details sometimes in these things. Remember who started LIV Golf? It was the Saudi PIF, which in itself generated a ton of controversy vis-a-vis what a lot of people think the Saudi government does or doesn't do. Well, Scott O'Neill, the CEO of LIV Golf, has announced at this week's event at Trump Bedminster in New Jersey that they have a person who's going to fund LIV Golf, somebody who's going to be basically a majority investor in the LIV Golf brand for 2027. And I only have one question. One simple question that I want to ask as we begin today's show. I want to know where all these people are with all this money who are willing to put it into losing investments. Because that's what LIV Golf is. What are you getting out of putting $250 million into LIV Golf? Somebody's got to tell me that. And I don't say this as a shot at LIV Golf. I don't say it as a shot to Scott O'Neill, who's a sports executive I have a lot of respect for. Remember, he jumped in after they got rid of Greg Norman and took things over at kind of a fraught time for LIV Golf. But I want to know where all these multi-millionaire companies are. because I'd gladly take your money, and I'd probably be able to give you a return on investment far better than what LIV Golf is going to wind up being. Because mark my words on this day, August 5th, 2026, this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap, LIV Golf is done. The patient's dead. You might still be breathing, but the patient is dead. This cannot compete with the PGA Tour. Period. Full stop. I don't know why somebody would say, you know what, I'm going to take $250 million of my hard-earned money, doing whatever it is you've done. And again, we'll find out, the devil's in the details on who this unnamed investor or investment group is that's put in $250 million and thinks it's going to be able to go up against the PGA Tour when LIV Golf has a basically non-existent TV deal. And we all know what drives these things. It's media rights deals. We're going to go put LIV Golf on YouTube, which, by the way, we're on. Love you guys on YouTube. But where are you going to go put LIV Golf? That's going to suddenly make it viable going up against the PGA Tour week in and week out. The only shot LIV Golf might have is if they put it on in the off season of golf. You know, those fall and winter events that not a lot of people are watching. If I were Scott O'Neill and the folks at LIV Golf, that's what I would do. I'd put it up against those events, because you're not going to win on a week in, week out basis, especially when you're on at all different hours of the day and all different hours of the night, vis-a-vis the fact that you're playing events all over the world. And largely, with the extent of a couple of times a year, PGA Tour, the main focus of their events is in the United States, when people are watching, not in the middle of the night, when events on in Australia or Singapore or Saudi Arabia, or name the country of your choice that isn't the United States. And that's the big story. We're coming back. More to do on the show. I said Linda Cohn is here. We've got a long conversation with her coming up. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Good to have you all with us, and good to have this person with us. Somebody I've been teasing that's going to come on the show, I think, since last week. And somebody I've wanted to talk to ever since I heard she was retiring at ESPN. Is one of the pioneers of women in sportscasting. One of the originals at ESPN. I'm going to flatter you for a second here. Got there in 92, which is around the time I was about 15 when you started at ESPN in 92. And that was right around the age that I actually decided and knew that I wanted to work in sports media for the rest of my life. Like, I knew at 15 this was what I wanted to do. And seeing somebody such as yourself and everybody at ESPN at that time, and SportsCenter was obviously the flagship show for everything at ESPN, and seeing you for all these years do your thing there and do it so well and so professionally in a day and age where there's been ebbs and flows in terms of what professionalism looks like and what sports anchoring and SportsCenter looks like. You were such a steady presence on that platform, so I can't say enough in that regard. What has the first few weeks, and you were kind of on in more of a limited capacity on SportsCenter towards the end, but what has it been like over these first few weeks, sort of settling into this new sort of Linda Cohn era for yourself?
First of all, Jace, thanks for the kind words. Great to be on with you. It's been great. It's been an adrenaline rush. It's starting over again. It's challenging myself. It's keeping my mind busy. It's keeping my mind occupied. It's better than it's ever been. It sounds cliche, but for me, it's fact. I have total freedom. I say that on my show, #Total Freedom, Jace, because like it or not, there are advantages for working for ESPN, and there were plenty. I was there 34 years, but I earned those advantages. But there are a lot of things that I wasn't a big fan of, but you had to be tongue-tied a little bit, meaning you had to kind of zip it and kind of hold in your thoughts about certain subjects. And you could speak your mind. You could say, hey, I want to do this story, or this story should be covered in SportsCenter. And they would let you have a conversation. But in the end, it wasn't up to you. And so to your point, with this show that I have, the Linda Cohn Show on YouTube, It's been fantastic because I just react. And that's why, I had the longevity at ESPN, not because I was able to speak my mind. I'd sneak in some comments. People who watch me over the years like you know which side the bread is buttered on, type of thing, and where I stood. But I just felt like when I did highlights, I would say what I want, and it would be reactive. It would be natural. It wouldn't be choreographed. And that's how I feel with this show, the Linda Cohn Show. Like a piece of video would come up. I said, let's have this on the show. I want to react to it. And a lot of times, and also I have fan questions, and I never see the questions in advance, and let me react to it. So it has a little bit of that kind of feeling of like living on the edge that you had doing a late night SportsCenter when games were ending and you had to react to it. And which I felt I love that. That was the greatest part of SportsCenter. That's why I love doing the highlight shows, because you're reacting to actual sports and what happened. And back in the day, we were talking about sports. Now I'm talking about stuff off the court, off the field, Jason.
Yeah, and in the later years, 34 years at ESPN, as you started to see others depart or go out the door. I was talking about the Stan Hills, the Neil Everetts, the Stan Verrettes, Kenny Mayne, all these people you worked with. Did you start looking over your shoulder? Like, describe what that environment is like for somebody that's been there a long time, and you're watching other people that have been there for a long time sort of depart. Are people looking at you as if to say, all right, go, jump, don't make us push you? Does it have that sort of environment to it?
I don't know if I would say that. First of all, you have to block out all of that. Yeah, I tell young people all the time, you have to block out any noise you think you hear. You can't create stories just because perhaps you have a feeling that something's up. That's not your concern. That's not your decision. All you can do is go out there and be yourself and kick butt and just crush it. And then no one will have anything on you because you kicked ass. And that's what I always tell people. Did I feel any kind of thing? Well, sure I did, Jason. Honestly, I mean, they closed down the LA studio 2 years ago. They gave everyone, our entire staff, 6 weeks to make a decision. Some they didn't ask to make a decision. Some they didn't want back. I didn't want to be dictated to, and it took me by surprise. I felt sad for our staff. A lot of young people, a lot of young families, and they had to decide if they wanted to go back to Bristol, Connecticut, or go to Bristol, Connecticut for the first time and move there, or have to look for another job in Los Angeles. I just didn't like the way that was handled. It was awful. So that's when I saw the writing on the wall. Stan went his direction. He chose not to hang around. I don't know if he was offered to, and that's his business. Stan Verrett I'm talking about. But for me, I was like, I'm not going to let anyone push me out. But I did have to I didn't work much that final year. I'll be honest with you, because they cut my salary 80%, Jason. In that final year, they just said, okay, you could do a bunch of events for us, like 15 events. I ended up doing about 4 events the entire year. I felt like I was retired in my last year, technically, at ESPN. When they didn't renew my contract, when it was up in this past June, I knew the writing was on the wall. They obviously didn't have a need for me or want me, even though I suggested different ideas off camera, if they wanted to keep me around to promote ESPN, to promote Disney, to do all that. There was no interest. And so I said, you know what? Guess what? I'm out of here. And I said to the people that asked me, not the bosses, because they never got on the phone with me. It's the great middle management people who said, Linda, we want to give you a good send off. And a great guy, Johan Castillo, who is one of these middle management folks, he goes, Linda, what would you like to do? Do you want to just stay in LA? You want to just do something on Zoom? And I'm like, you know what? This is going to make ESPN look a hell of a lot better if they fly me out to Bristol and say goodbye from there. And Johan was like, oh, sure, I'll ask the bosses. I'm sure they'll give a check for that. And they did. But that's all they did. And then the good people, the producers, the directors, the middle management people, the camera operators, the audio they made it. My colleagues that I got to see when I was in Bristol for the big goodbye, that's what made it special for me. And I'm really glad I was, as I say, better, not bitter. I could have been bitter. I could have, I could have been. Yeah. But what's the point? Why do that? Yeah. I know what I meant to ESPN. And you know what? ESPN helped me as well.
Sure.
Could I have done more stuff, Jace? Did I want to do more that I didn't get opportunities for? Sure. But was I still a nightly fixture on SportsCenter? Yes. So I just took the high road. There was a lot to be grateful for, and that's how I looked at it. Grateful for those 34 years, no matter how they look like.
We have more with Linda Cohn next. Welcome back to the show. Linda Cohn hanging out with us on the show today. Our special guest. What is the state? If I said, Linda Cohn, get up at the podium and give me the State of the Union for women in sports media. I give it that impromptu speech I'm asking you to give. What is the State of the Union when it comes to women in sports media today, Linda Cohn?
I like that question. I feel very presidential when you put the State of the Union thing in there. I think overall it's fantastic. I really do. There's so many talented women. And it was just, I've said this before and I'll say it again, because besides being a mom and raising two amazing kids, the professional, that's my personal legacy that I'm most proud of. Professionally, what I'm most proud of is all these women that had looked up to me, that reached out to me after the official retirement from ESPN, who said, if it wasn't for you, I never would even think about going into this business. I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back.
No.
I'm saying it because that's great. That makes me feel great. And I try to get back to every single one of those women because that meant so much to me when I was just doing something I loved and hoping that it sent a message to men of all ages that women could do this job. So when you say, what is the State of the Union of women in, sports media? I think it's fantastic. They're either on YouTube, or other platforms that they have. They're on major networks. They're holding primary roles on major networks. And so I look around and I say, great. The big thing is, and I've always said this, I've said this when I wrote a book, funny book, A Look at My Life, called Conehead back in 2009. I said, I said, as long as these women, that was 2009. So
I interviewed you when you did that book PR tour when I was working in Hartford at ESPN Radio.
Incredible,
on
Jace.
The local side, yeah.
Yeah. So, and if you remember, I said, as long as these women, are getting into sports for the right reason, not because they couldn't get a job at Access Hollywood, and you could see the difference because sports fans, you can't fool them. They know a phony. They can pick one out anywhere.
And there are some out there. And frankly, I think there are some males that are doing
there are
it.
Males out there. I'm a sports fan, Jay.
Absolutely,
so I can pick them out. I know.
Absolutely, and we could sit here and pick them out for sure. So then, along those lines, how much did something like the Dianna Russini, Mike Vrabel thing that sort of played out? And we know what we know. Dianna hasn't given her side of the story. All we have are the images. And in full disclosure, I've discussed this on the air. I've known Dianna for 15 years. So I've spoken to her privately about these things. I obviously won't share those things. I will share what I've told her, which is I think you need to sit down and have a conversation with somebody publicly to sort of explain what did happen, because you're just letting people fill the vacuum with what they assume happened. But that said, as somebody in your position who's paved the way for so many, to see a story like that, what does that do to you? What does it do to other women who are trying to break into the business or trying to establish credibility?
Yeah, and that's great advice you gave your friend Dianna. I mean, it's sort of like in the old days when a celebrity would do something, they would go on like, David Letterman or Johnny Carson, or they would go on, sit down with Barbara Walters. Sure. And give their side of the story, or Diane Sawyer, and give their side of the story. And I think that when I first heard this, I mean, Diane and I crossed paths very infrequently because I was a studio anchor. She was out and about when she worked at ESPN. I don't know her that well, but I was looking to hear her side of story. As to the part of your question that says, how does that affect women in this circle, in this broadcast media of sports? It shouldn't affect them at all. That's her issue, her problem, all that stuff. She's got to figure that out if she wants a career.
It shouldn't, but it does. Fairly or unfairly.
Well, you can't let that happen. Well, that just depends if you allow it to. Again, that's part of the block out the noise. There's nothing to do with it. It's not your problem. It does, because people allow that to happen. People like to create narratives, Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they're like, oh, this is the opening we needed. I always thought women don't belong in sports. Now I can milk this till the cows come home.
Mm-hmm.
That's always going to be around. And I've told women, especially young women in the field now, don't let that sway your dreams. Don't let that bother you. Who cares what other people think? They don't know you. And they certainly don't know what's going on with Dianna Russini, because Dianna Russini, oh, by the way, hasn't sat down with a Diane Sawyer type or a Barbara Walters type, these kind of things, to tell her side of the story, if there is, or come clean, whatever it is. Look at Kyle Shanahan. I know it's apples and oranges.
Sure.
But, the cover-up was worse than the alleged crime.
Always is. Do you
Right?
do you think Vrabel skated, though? Do you think he's been given sort of a pass, if you will, compared to the way she's been treated?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I'm not there in the room with Bob Kraft evaluating how should we treat our head coach and all this. I don't know what he knows. I don't know what Mike Vrabel told Bob Kraft. I don't know. I still don't know how you think she's been treated. I know you're her friend, but until we find out more, anyone can say anything they want to. It's a free country. Yeah,
and there is a lot of that. Do you, just kind of off topic, but sort of something you were saying when you're talking to younger broadcasters and everything, do you sort of want to do some of that mentoring now, maybe speaking at colleges, universities, whatever it is, sort of go on the speaking circuit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done a few, but I'd love to do more. I enjoy that. I really enjoy that the most. I think I have a lot to say and I like to share. And I think it would help a lot of today's college student, or even in business industries, how to handle, breaking into the boys club. That was basically Conehead. That was the name of my book, as you know, Jason. I knew how to do it a million years ago. And how much has that changed? How much do you still need that advice? So yeah, if anyone's listening and wants to hire me, definitely reach out, or reach out to Jason. He has my info.
There you go. I'll be your agent, and I'll take probably a smaller cut than your real agent. Linda Cohn is hanging out with us on this special edition of SportsWrap. Catching up with her. We still got to talk about what she's doing and her plans and sort of how she plans to use this platform on YouTube. And being more outspoken and being able to speak her mind, because for so many years you're scripted in that SportsCenter mold, and it's kind of hard to break out of those things into your own voice, and being able to do that now. I want to talk to her about that and some of the other big issues taking place around the world of sports. Stick around, we got a lot more to do. Linda Cohn is our guest on this special edition of SportsWrap, hanging out with her. All right, I want to bounce around on a few hot topics around sports and get your thoughts, because you have opinions, and I love it. And even if I don't agree with all of your opinions, I love your opinions because I know they come from an educated place. And there's so many people spewing opinions that don't come from an educated place. And we could all agree to disagree on certain things, as long as there's at least a certain basis of facts and mutual respect for each other, and an ability to try and see the world through other people's eyes, as opposed to just, this sort of narrow scope. I think these sorts of conversations can happen. One from broadcasting, Tony Romo. Do you think he's called his last game at CBS? Yes or no?
Yes, I said this on the Linda Cohn Show, the latest episode on Monday. I said, this is it. I go, the optics would look awful. Let's say they take him back. The legal process does its thing. And Tony, is back, says he's a new man, and demoted to the number 2 or 3 team. The optics just don't look good for CBS or for Tony Romo. And I said on my show, Tony, and CBS, they'll probably reach a mutual financial agreement. He signed that 10-year, $180 million deal.
Still owed 4 years. Still owed 4 years.
Exactly, Jay. Yeah. So they'll reach some kind of financial agreement. They'll part ways. Tony will take the rest of the season off, and he'll be, in his mind, work on himself and come out with a statement or talk to somebody out loud publicly and say, you know what, I'm going to work on myself and look forward to resuming my career, on another platform at another place. And guess what, Jason? Tony Romo's going to get another job.
Yep.
And it was the best thing that could happen to CBS after years of his skills declining. The execs at CBS knew it, and colleagues knew it. Tony wasn't working as hard as he did when he first burst onto the scene. So we're going to see a new Tony Romo. It's just not going to be with CBS.
Yeah, we're in total agreement on that. You've basically trumpeted everything that I've said as well, so I couldn't agree with you more on that. I saw you comment yesterday on Aaron Rodgers' appearance on Pat McAfee, and Pat McAfee is a lightning rod, as is Aaron Rodgers. So when the two of them get together, two lightning rods, there's going to be fireworks. And we saw what happened yesterday with this rant he went on about Dr. Fauci and all of these different things. When you're watching Aaron Rodgers, I said this at the top of yesterday's show in the big story. To me, at this point, Aaron Rodgers is kind of the early days of American Idol in the audition stage. When you're watching, but you're not watching because you're watching something great. You're watching out of morbid curiosity to see what he's going to say, what outlandish thing is going to come out of his mouth, and you're watching it for entertainment value. Because from a football standpoint, he's not even a top 15, top 16 quarterback at this stage of his career. McAfee sort of gives him that platform. What do you make of I saw what you kind of said about his comments. What do you make of sort of Aaron Rodgers in this final stage, literally this final lap of his career with the Steelers, and being outspoken the way he is, for better or for worse?
I think you're a little harsh comparing him to one of those early American Idol contestants. Those were car wrecks.
Yesterday was come on, from a TV perspective, imagine the execs at ESPN. And actually, I'd love to put you in their shoes because you know them intimately. What the hell are they thinking watching that for 2.5 minutes yesterday?
I don't care. I don't care what they're thinking. That's old news. What I love about Aaron Rodgers is he doesn't try to be someone else. He's not a phony. He's not a fraud. He's always been that way. He's always spoken his mind. That's what I admire about someone, just like I admire Sophie Cunningham for speaking out. You may not believe it. You may bully her because she doesn't believe in what you think. Same with Aaron Rodgers. You may not believe, and you didn't believe in him years ago during this whole COVID stuff, and how he stood out and spoke out, and he was ripped apart by, you name it, everybody. He stuck to his guns. I just admire someone that is true to themselves. It doesn't matter what they believe in, what their topic is. I'm not talking about something super criminal, but, he has the freedom on Pat McAfee. And I made a joke. I was like, when was the last time we saw Pat McAfee for a loss of words? It happened. I mean, Aaron Rodgers does that to him, and I loved every bit of that as well. And I love Pat, but I mean, that was great screen time. And that came on right before I did my show live. So I'm like, I got to lead with this. I'm just going to react to it. I'm not sure what even I'm going to say. But let me tell you something. I watched that Fauci stuff, and it was a joke. It was an absolute joke. It was cowardly. And that's someone that, isn't his true self. And so this is Aaron Rodgers, man. Years ago, everybody thought he was a conspiracy theorist. Now he's getting the last laugh. He had his time. He milked it. He can do whatever he wants. And you know what? He's a happy guy. I said that on my show. I said that even before all this Pat McAfee stuff. It's so great to see Aaron Rodgers happy. He's happily married. His wife helped him get back with his family. They've been estranged for a decade or so. He credited his wife for that. He credited his wife for helping him make the decision to come back to the Steelers for another year because he wouldn't be happy if he retired. And I've never seen him happier. So God bless him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is he's a spot. If you throw enough things against a wall, something's going to stick. And the way I look at him is, a lot of times I feel like he's thrown so many different conspiracy theories, what some people will call alternative points of view, others might call it, at the wall. And a couple of them hit, And people are like, see, he's right about everything. And then I say, well, he also told Pamela Brown in 2013 that the Sandy Hook massacre was an inside job, a government job, things like that.
Right. Well, that is
what I'm saying.
ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll have to dig that up.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah,
I never heard that. That's a sensitive topic to me since I live 10 minutes from there. And my kids are still.
Yeah, I worked in Danbury, so I know that area very well.
Southbury. I was in Southbury, you know. So
that's what I mean. What does Linda Cohn make of all the controversy swirling around the WNBA? We're talking about all that and more next. Odds and ends will wrap it up 10 minutes from now. More of my conversation now with the great Linda Cohn, former ESPN SportsCenter anchor and host of the Linda Cohn Show, which you can watch on YouTube. I think she said Mondays and Thursdays. The WNBA, is it a league succeeding in spite of itself?
It's not. It's not. They're finding every way imaginable to trip themselves up. All self-inflicted wounds.
But by the numbers, Linda.
Well,
it's
thank Indiana Fever playing an exciting brand of basketball. Thank Caitlin Clark. That, for breaking records. Thank all of that, bringing everyone around her, getting eyeballs to the screen. It all began with that. It's fact. And, look at the ratings. Look at how that. I called the Indiana Fever a month ago, America's team. They're America's team now. What the Dallas Cowboys were, at least in the summer when the WNBA is relevant. Because she made it happen. She's very likable. Now, I don't know how she's handling this. Now she has to carry the Sophie Cunningham stuff on her. And now she's being ripped for that. Because, you're not backing your teammate. And if it's not one thing, it's another thing. If it's the stuff on the court, it's the stuff off the court. All the greats always appear like they're whining or working the refs, by the way.
Oh, every single sport.
Let's get off that soapbox. Oh, she's always whining and flopping and all that. When? And then, and if she is, she's working the refs for her team. The girl, she just wants to win. She's 24 years old. So when you say, look at the ratings, look at this. I'm sorry. Every time that's mentioned, I'm like, where would they be without Caitlin Clark?
I'm not arguing against her. Not by the least. I look at the ratings, which started with her. Now, people are tuning in, seeing other things they like and sticking with it. The Paige Beckers of the world, the Olivia Miles of the world.
Are they?
Yes.
they? Are those ratings Dallas against Phoenix or something? Is that really rating is high?
Right. Oh no, I think there's levels to this. I think it's fair to say there are levels to this, but they're doing. Those other games are doing respectable numbers, and the WNBA has such a spread out media package that it's hard to miss it. It's hard to not find it somewhere on the dial.
Or you could go the other route and say, where are they on today? Thank God I have YouTube TV that I paid for. And
it's like the NBA this year.
Come up, it'll, like you said, then you'll know it doesn't matter what network they're on. But hey, there's a lot of talented women. I say this all the time with the WNBA, and it's a shame the stuff off the court is diverting and distracting from the quality of play that is on the screen. Having Caitlin Clark and the popularity of Sophie Cunningham just skyrocketed when it comes to the Fever. And by the way, it's not like the Fever are unwatchable.
Oh, God,
their brand of basketball is great. They score over 100 points a game. Okay? Mm-hmm. So it's not like, they're watching just because these two women. No, they're watching because Kelsey Mitchell is amazing. Aaliyah Boston is amazing. Yep. They play as a team. They're scoring points. They're not like the old days of the WNBA when the final score was 50-42.
That's true. On the Sophie Cunningham thing, I'm trying to figure out how the league gets out of this sort of perpetual cycle it feels like we're in now. Since she made her comments to ESPN, ironically enough, since she made those comments regarding transgender athletes participating with biological females in sports, and now that's the focus. Conservative media's sort of parachuted in and said, we're going to make sure to ask everybody about this, keep it on the front pages. As a league, what are you supposed to do to keep the focus on basketball and get it off of this?
Well, you don't perpetuate it. You don't have Cheryl Reeve, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, which I said on my show on YouTube, the Linda Cohn Show, on the last episode. You don't wear a shirt that says, let's see, what is it? Trans girls belong. First of all, Sophie Cunningham never said anything about trans not belonging. She said she has nothing against trans. Her issue was having women's spaces being invaded by, in her words, biological males, or in other people's words, female transgenders, invading their space, taking roster spots and all this. And what I said on the show, Jason, it's very simple. It's easy for all these coaches to come out. And then you had the Golden State coach, Nakase, talk about, oh, I've been excluded because it talked about you don't belong here because I'm short and my
ethnicity, being Asian.
Ethnicity, sorry. What's that got to do with anything? I mean, it just was like such a reach for me. Sports is about competition. Sports is not about allowing everybody to play. They're not 3-year-olds on a soccer field right now. This will, you say, when will this end? This will continue until the WNBA is faced with an issue like this. They're not. They don't have this issue right now. But 23 states allow this to happen, plus the District of Columbia allow this to happen in lower levels, right? In high school,
lower levels.
Junior high,
yes.
Okay, and all these kind of things. So when I hear these head coaches say this is not an issue, this is something built up by what you said, the conservative media, it is going on, and it is affecting, people that have kids that have to deal with this. And by the way, Sophie Cunningham never said this is the number one problem in sports, which one of these coaches, which Cheryl Reeves said, this is what's being painted as the number one problem in sports. And Cheryl Reeves also said, and I played the soundbite on my show, anyone could just find my show on YouTube, Jace. And she said, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've been talking to our leaders about what's going to happen when this issue comes to the WNBA. Cheryl Reeves has already been thinking about this. So right or wrong, she sees that this is something that's going to happen. But right now they don't have an issue, so they can talk about it freely because they know LeBron James is not going to suddenly transition and be an issue, or anybody else is going to be that way.
I'll make a comfortable prediction. There will never be a transgender female playing in the WNBA.
The WNBA,
it's not sustainable.
There's all this skill. It's a professional sports league.
We're wrapping it up. Odds and ends are next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the show, more from the world of baseball, the latest from NFL training camps, which we'll have a smidge of here in Odds and Ends. Whatever else pops up as well. We have the first NFL game of the preseason on Thursday night. Hall of Fame game. Talk a little bit about that. As much as you need to talk about that. I mean, it's game one of the NFL preseason. So that'll be all on tomorrow's show. Also, again, if you missed our conversation with Linda Cohn, that isn't even the entire thing. It will be up and available in its entirety on our YouTube channel, which I'll talk about in just a second. But we will have the entire conversation, which was some 40 minutes, with myself and the former ESPN SportsCenter anchor, on next Friday's edition of SportsWrap. So a week from Friday, we will have my conversation with Linda Cohn uninterrupted in its entirety on the show. Make sure to tune in for that. I guess uninterrupted is probably the wrong word because we do have commercials because we got to pay bills. Couple of reminders before we go. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. The audio version of this show is available Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you download a podcast. Every day, the show is available. Go and get it there. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is the place for all things video related to this show. Monday through Friday TV version of the show. 45 minutes, commercial free, available for you each day. Extended conversations like the one we had with Linda Cohn. Sometimes interviews go long. We can't fit it all into the TV show. We put it on the YouTube channel. That's why we have it. For overflow content, such as a conversation that goes too long. Sports Wrap shorts are there. You may have seen last night, something we're going to reference here in Odds and Ends. Big event for the Yankees that took place. We'll tell you about that. Sports Wrap shorts, breaking news, something happens, we jump in and talk about it there. All of that available on the YouTube channel. All right. The SportsWrap website, if you have not checked this out yet, SportsWrap.tv. It's right above my head. You can't miss it. SportsWrap.tv is the place to find all things related to the show. The aforementioned podcast, the aforementioned YouTube channel, YouTube content. It's all up there. We also have the Daily Wrap, our Substack newsletter. That's available on the website, SportsWrap.tv. You can subscribe there. It's free. Go and do it. We also have our affiliate finder. If you want to know where to watch the show in your particular market, maybe you're watching us on YouTube right now, want to know where you can watch it on TV, Monday through Friday, weekends too, all of that available on the website. You could also send us your comments, criticisms, love, hate, we don't care, suggestions. The virtual suggestion box is at the bottom of the website. Go there and send us your thoughts. And without any further delay on this Wednesday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. Oh, yes. Last night, a special night in the Bronx. George Lombard Jr., the Yankees' #1 prospect, making his debut and doing it with a bang on an 0-2 pitch and a 1-0 Yankee lead over the Cardinals. He hits a home run, solo shot. His parents are going nuts. It's on the same day his kid brother hit a home run in his professional debut in the minors. You can't make this stuff up. Baseball is great for these sorts of stories. The Yankees get Lombard into their lineup playing shortstop. Anthony Volpe's been sent down to AAA to make room for Lombard. He's going to learn how to play second base down there because this kid's the future of the franchise. There's just no getting around it. I mean, they've built everything around him. And I will credit to my friend, Sal Santinelli. I'm going to use his full name, who watches us in Connecticut. Longtime friend of mine. Somebody I've known since we were kids. He texted me last night and he said something that I think was a very apt comp for George Lombard Jr. He looks like a young Manny Machado. And boy, the Yankees would be thrilled if they got 10 years of, Manny Machado in their future. And that is what they hope maybe George Lombard can be. It was a great moment, though, at Yankee Stadium last night with him hitting that home run. And the Yankees beating the Cardinals 2-0 as they remain atop the wild card standings right now in the American League, and they try to chase down the Tampa Bay Rays. Odds and ends, it's the end for Marcell Ozuna, who has struggled this year mightily with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ozuna, released by the team, he had a 1-year, $12 million deal, and he basically stole money. He hit .203 with 8 home runs and 29 RBIs, a .613 OPS in 70 games, and therefore the team has decided to let him go. Pirates still trying to secure a wild card spot out there in the National League. Odds and ends, Jalon Walker of the Atlanta Falcons. Pittsburgh, I had Pittsburgh on the brain. Of the Atlanta Falcons, had 5.5 sacks as a rookie last year out of Georgia for the team. He was expected to be a big part of their pass rushing unit while the edge rusher is done for the season. A torn ACL and a huge blow early on in training camp for the Atlanta Falcons. The guys got to be walking around looking at each other going, really? Like, this just started. Happened at the end of practice on Tuesday. The team announcing on Wednesday he would miss the entire season that is upcoming because of that. Best wishes go out to him. Hopefully he feels better soon. And that'll wrap it up for us on this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. Thanks to all of you at home for watching. Thank you to Linda Cohn for hanging out with us. And again, our full conversation with her will be available on YouTube, on the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, and that full conversation will also be available next Friday, a week from this Friday, here on Sports Wrap. We hope you tune in then. But until tomorrow, I'm Jason Page. That does it for Sports Wrap. We'll see you next time.